You're listening to the Jets Factor on SoundCloud.com and the Sports War Radio Network.
Darnold escapes, trying to buy himself some time. Fires, end zone, it's caught. Anderson, incredible play by Darnold, and here come the Jets.
Now, here are your hosts, CJ DeSimone and Carlos Sardinas.
What's going on, Jets Nation? Welcome to another edition of the Jets Factor podcast here on SoundCloud.com and the Sports War Radio Network. I'm your host, CJ the Painkiller DeSimone, and let me tell you something. In Gangrene Land, it is not a pretty sight as the Philadelphia Eagles beat up on the New York Jets, take advantage of their ineptitude on offense, and it's another 31-6 ass-kicking at the hands of Carson Wentz and company. And let me tell you something. New York Jets fan base is very, very upset right now. And when I use the word upset, I would actually say that's a little bit mild, okay? Because right now the New York Jets are a complete and utter shit show. There is no other way to put it, okay? So before I start tonight's episode, I just want to give everybody a little bit of disclaimer, okay? Tonight's going to be a little bit of a therapy session, okay? Whereas I tell you some good things about this New York Jets team, but I also tell you some bad things about this New York Jets team. And let's face it, there's going to be a lot of profanity thrown around. So if you are someone who gets probably, let's see, the word I'm looking for is easily offended, you know, or someone who may have some sort of like, you know, sensitivity issues, tonight's not the night for you to listen to this episode. Put the kids away. Lock everybody up in their rooms. Put your earphones on if you have to. Go hit the treadmill. Go hit the weight room. Go take a walk around the block. Go take the dog around the block, or whatever the fuck you want to do at this moment in time. Because tonight's episode is not going to be one for the faint of heart, so to speak. Okay? There's going to be a lot of things said tonight that are going to be a little bit outlandish. A lot of people are probably not going to agree with what I have to say. And you know what? I really don't give a shit at this point. Because this team is an absolute fucking disaster. Plain and simple. The offense can't get out of its own way. The offensive line is a fucking trash heap, despite the changes that they made. And it's no fault of Chuma Ajoa's, okay? It's no fault of Alex Lewis's, okay? It's when you make changes to the offensive line, you have to substitute parts that are struggling, okay? Like Brian fucking Winters, okay? Like Kelvin fucking Beachum, okay? How about Ryan fucking Khalil, another $8 million mistake, okay? Now look, I mean, no disrespect to any one of those players, okay? They got a tough job being an NFL player as it is, okay? But what exactly do you guys do in practice? I really want to know. I'm curious to know exactly what the New York Jets do in practice, okay, as far as the offensive line is concerned. Do you all just sit around, have a conversation, watch tape over coffee? Do you talk about what you're going to talk about at the next meeting? Or do you guys actually go out there on the practice field and actually try some fucking drills, okay? Because let me tell you something. The Philadelphia Eagles have a pretty good pass rush, but they are not by far world beaters, okay? They're not. Not by any stretch of the imagination, okay? This is a team that was 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. Yes, they have a lot of talent. Yes, Doug Peterson is an incredible head coach. Okay, he's got a Super Bowl ring to prove it, okay? But I personally felt like if there was any way that the New York Jets were going to get a win, they were going to get a win pretty much with this, okay? They would have gotten a win against the Philadelphia Eagles because the Eagles, despite their 2-2 record, had a lot of struggling. There were a lot of injuries in the secondary, a secondary that really did not get fucking tested at all on Sunday, okay? But you know, I digress. Now, look, I don't want to hear the excuses anymore about Luke Falk, Okay? Speaking of Luke Falk, ladies and gentlemen, I have a confession to make. Okay? And it's a confession that probably a lot of people will.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Oh, yeah, you should have a very bad feeling about this. Okay? Because you know what? When the Cleveland Browns came to town and played the Jets on Monday Night Football, and Trevor Siemian pretty much got sawed in half, and Luke Falk had to come into relief, and he actually started throwing the ball around after Adam Gase took the handcuffs off this kid. Okay? He looked decent. So I figured, you know what? This kid may be serviceable. In the preseason, he looked pretty good. Okay? In fact, I went on record as saying that I thought that Luke Falk had actually outplayed Trevor Siemian, and I thought that he maybe had earned the right to be and to get the backup job instead of Trevor Siemian. But okay, everybody else kind of laughed at me, and they said, well, consider the competition that he was playing against. He was playing against 3s and 4s, and guys that are probably bagging groceries right now, or waiting to get picked up by an XFL team, or who knows. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, I was wrong. I was dead ass wrong about Luke Falk. And I tell you, there's just a lot of things that
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Well, that's tough shit if you find my lack of faith disturbing. Because you know what? I mean, Luke Falk is not a fucking NFL quarterback. Not by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sorry. Okay, and we saw it. Okay, because he holds on to the ball too long. The kid got sacked 10 times. 10. The Philadelphia Eagles had 3 sacks total coming into yesterday's game with the Jets. 3. Okay? The Jets handed him 10. Why? Because our offensive line couldn't stop a fucking nosebleed. Okay? So, I can't say anything more about this offensive line that hasn't already been said. This line needs to be fixed. Ryan Khalil needs to be benched, and you need to put Jonathan Harrison in. Okay? You need to somehow find a way to shift some of these players around to make them play a little bit better. Okay? Because this is pathetic. Okay, when the Jets, by the way, actually scored their second offensive touchdown. Woohoo for that. Hey, let's give a round of applause for that, because there's nothing really exciting about shit here in Gangrene Land. So but hey, we scored an offensive touchdown. Okay, an end around in which the Jets ended up cashing in on a turnover, on a muffed punt. Okay, which got them deep into Eagles territory, and then Adam Gase finally stuck his finger out of his ass and actually dialed up a play in which Daniel Jones was in the pistol, and they actually used some misdirections, and then Vincent Smith, a guy who they picked up off somebody's practice squad who got activated for this game, actually went in and actually scored this touchdown. Then the Jets went for 2, and then, of course, we got to hit Le'Veon Bell at the 2-yard line. We can't fucking throw anything into the end zone because, God forbid, we should actually have a completed 2-point conversion. No, we always have to throw something that's 2 yards behind the sticks. Okay? There was some people on Facebook, and I got to shout out my buddy Lou Uriv from the True NFL Jets fan page. I know that he was calling out some people. He was fighting with some people on the page last night about he didn't want to hear that it was Adam Gase's fault and so on and so forth. He thought that Gase called a good game, a good game plan. And, some of the plays he did, but there were other plays where it was constantly just when you constantly are run, sack, punt for at least 7 consecutive drives, you can't call that innovative play calling. All right? Demaryius Thomas, he had a couple of major drops yesterday. Robbie Anderson completely underutilized. You know, I'm just so sick and tired of seeing the weapons that we have on this team just not being utilized to their full potential. You know, and I understand that the offensive line is shit, but there's ways around it. Okay? I mean, we saw it. We saw it with the end around. So, I mean, there's no reason why Luke Falk could not have lined up in the pistol, and you could have had both Le'Veon Bell and Ty Montgomery on the field at the same time. You could have utilized, you know, Ryan Griffin. What the fuck did you bring this kid in here for if you're not going to use him? You know, and then you got Trayvon Wesco. Okay? I thought we were going to see more 2 and 3 tight end sets from this offense. We haven't seen shit. Okay? I mean, Wesco's been on the field for what? Maybe 10 fucking minutes. He's been in for like a handful of plays. I mean, what the hell? You know, the kid made the roster. Give the kid a look. You know, have him in the backfield. He could not only line up as a tight end, but he could also line up as a fullback. There was even a play where they utilized Jonathan Harrison as a fucking fullback. Okay, then what do we have Wesco on the roster for? Okay? You know, and then, you know, just bad roster management all around. You know, when your offensive line gives up 10 sacks, your quarterback is completely shell-shocked. His confidence is completely shot. Okay? I mean, Luke Falk is basically fighting an uphill battle with both hands tied behind his back. You know, and I'm sorry, but I lay that at the feet of Adam Gase, and you know what? I also lay this at the feet of Joe Douglas, too. He's not without blame. Because you know what? You guys had 2 fucking weeks to prepare after you got your asses kicked by the New England Patriots. So you mean to tell me that Joe Douglas could make a phone call to Brock Osweiler or Josh Johnson or some other fucking scrub, Tyrod Taylor or anybody out there, some veteran quarterback that could come in for a game or two until Sam Darnold is in game shape? And even so, I may not even want Sam Darnold out there behind this fucking offensive line. Because we saw what he could do behind this offensive line. You know, he only managed 8 points because he was constantly running for his life. So what are we going to do? We're going to let the kid get fucking destroyed? Why? Because he's too stupid to substitute Ryan Khalil for fucking Jonathan Harrison? Because we're too stupid to shift Alex Lewis to the other side? We can't call Dakota Dozier? You know? I mean, Kelechi Osemele, he played through injury. He was inactive for this game. But, I mean, Brandon Shell, yeah, he was benched for pretty much his shitty play, but he was also inactive for this game. You know, you should have at least had Brandon Shell dressed and active for this game, even if he sat his ass on the bench. You know, because the moment that Chuma Ejoa started struggling, you could have put Brandon Shell in to stop the bleeding a little bit. Okay? You know, just bad personnel usage, bad roster management. You know, I'm so fucking sick of the excuses, and we had a great week of practice and all the other fucking cliches that I hear from this coaching staff. That's ridiculous. You know, I know it's too early to start talking about the fire Adam Gase shit, and he really hasn't had the team at 100%. But you know what? I'm sorry. With the play over the past. Since week 1, this team has gotten worse. And you want to tell me all about the injury bug and, oh, well, it's not fair. You know, they didn't have C.J. Mosley. They didn't have Jordan Jenkins on defense. Dude, C.J. Mosley cannot play offensive line. So spare me that excuse. Jordan Jenkins does not play offensive line. So spare me that excuse. Okay? Kelechi Osemele is probably your best offensive lineman, and he is even getting his ass kicked out there because he has to compensate for the 2 fuckwads he's got on each side of him. Okay? You got Ryan Khalil, who's still, from all accounts, getting into game shape. He's a great locker room guy, and you know what? We don't need great locker room guys. We need guys that can play. Your best ability is availability. You know, and another thing, too, that I'm going to bring up. You know, when players decide to retire, and then all of a sudden they come out of retirement. You know, and this has been said by other NFL players that have retired over the years. That once you start thinking about that R word, retirement, It don't matter how hard you work out. It don't matter how much money they're paying you. It doesn't matter what the contract looks like. It doesn't matter what the team looks like. Once you mentally check out, you mentally check out. That's it. That's all there is to it. So spare me the bullshit of, oh, well, Ryan Khalil still has to get into shape, and this team didn't play, and this offensive unit didn't play together in the offseason, so nobody really knows. See, this is another bullshit thing, too, that I fucking hate about preseason. All right? The whole purpose of preseason is to fucking see what fits and what doesn't. Who's playing well and who sucks balls and needs to be cut. Okay? So we could have solved all of these fucking problems by doing this during the preseason. Okay? Having these assholes play together. I don't give a shit if it was against the Giants. I don't give a shit if it was the fourth preseason game against the Eagles. Okay? I didn't give a shit who they played with. They could have fucking came down here and played Palm Bay High for all I give a shit. I don't care. I want to see these assholes play together. They need to work on their fucking communication. They need to work on their rhythm. They need to work on their timing. And most of all, they've got to be in sync with your goddamn quarterback. Okay? And again, I can't stress this enough that I'm tired of the fucking excuses. We are now in week 5. This team is winless, and every single game that this team has taken the field, they have gotten worse. And every time I watch Greg Williams' defense go out there and try to save the fucking day again, they're getting their asses kicked. Every time I see Le'Veon Bell get 25 touches a fucking game, 30 touches a game, and he's not even getting 50 yards rushing, he's going to be useless by week 8 because you're going to burn him out. So I'm tired. I'm tired of the excuses. I'm tired of the ineptitude of this fucking offense. And I'm sorry, it falls at the feet of Adam Gase. Like it or not, I don't give a shit if you like it. Okay, but at the end of the day, he's the head coach. It's his fucking offense. Because if that's the case, then fire Darryl Loggins. Okay? Darryl Loggins, in my eyes, is just a glorified clip holder. He couldn't find his ass with 2 hands in a map. You got Jim Bob Cooter, who's a former offensive coordinator coaching running backs. I'm sure that he could probably put together a better plan. But again, what I don't understand is we've got a plethora of coaching experience on this roster, and there's zero excuse as to why they can't figure it out. And I'm just sick of it. I mean, look, okay, I'm going to read you this stat line. Okay, Luke Falk finished the game with 15 for 26 for 120 yards. Okay, he was picked off twice. Okay. He had that terrible pick 6 on going for it on 4th down, which was just absolutely ridiculous. And then Skandrick ends up taking the ball from Falk and returns it for a touchdown. It's pathetic. Okay, then David Fales came in. He was sacked once for 7 yards. I mean, altogether a total of 10 total team sacks. Okay, Luke Falk was sacked 9 times for 52 yards. That's fucking pathetic. Okay. Le'Veon Bell, 15 carries for 43 yards, 2.9 yards a carry. Okay, he didn't come here and sign a $52 million contract to get 2.9 yards a carry. I'll tell you that much right now. And I told you before, this wide receiving core is completely underutilized. You got Demaryius Thomas, 4 receptions for 47 yards. I mean, he's been hit or miss. So you really don't even know what the fuck you actually have in Demaryius Thomas. Okay, you got Robbie Anderson, 1 catch for 16 yards. Jamison Crowder, 2 catches for 10 yards. Ryan Griffin, 1 catch for 2 yards. What the fuck are you doing with this wide receiver core? What are you doing? You've got to use this wide receiving core. And I'm sorry, but you know what? It starts and ends at the offensive line. I've been screaming for the past 2 years I've been screaming for more than 2 years that this offensive line needed to be upgraded. Okay, as soon as DeBrickashaw Ferguson walked away, as soon as Nick Mangold walked away, everybody said, don't worry, we can go and we can get a couple stopgap guys until Mac finds shit in the draft. Okay, well, Mac ain't here no more. Okay, and before him, John Idzik, he didn't fucking draft anybody from the offensive line either. Okay? But the part that I do lay at the feet of Joe Douglas is the fact that nobody called Brock Osweiler, nobody called Josh Johnson, nobody called Tyrod Taylor or any other fucking scrub quarterback that's been through the washing machine, okay, to come in and to play a couple of games over here till Sam Darnold was coming back, because Luke Falk clearly can't handle it. Okay, not that I'm saying that Brock Osweiler probably would have been the best. Probably would have been the best option, because he's actually played in an Adam Gase offensive system before, so he probably knows a lot of the cadences and the calls and all the other bullshit that comes along with it. Okay, so I don't understand. You had 2 weeks to prepare for the Philadelphia Eagles, and you didn't. And every single week that you take the field, you look more and more unprepared on offense. And I'm sorry. Like it or not, it falls at the feet of Adam Gase. I don't give a shit what anybody has to say about it. Plain and simple. All right? And then, interesting article that I read today that popped up on my Google timeline from Fox News, okay, by Ryan Gatos. Irate New York Jets fans call for Adam Gase's dismissal after fourth straight loss. And man, let me tell you, these people took to Twitter and completely roasted the New York Jets. Big E at, I want to say, Ian693. Okay, Adam Gase is going to be one and done with the New York Jets this season. Bet on it. Okay, NYSF Magazine. Okay, at NYSF Mag. Adam Gase needs to go in record time. 4 games, go away. Okay, Noel Fogelman at the first Noel 19. Just fire Adam Gase now so he can latch on to an XFL team as their quarterback coach. Okay, the Nickinator. Okay, Nictatorship. This is to be said. The Jets are actually worse than the Dolphins. Please fire Adam Gase. I'm sorry to say, but you know what? He's not off base with that tweet right there. Okay? IG Jets Juke. At Jets Juke. Fire Adam Gase. If you have a brain, Christopher Johnson, please make Greg Williams the head coach. Hashtag Jets. Okay? I mean, it is just absolutely ridiculous. The New York Jets went 164 offensive snaps without scoring a touchdown until Vincent Smith scored in the fourth quarter. Okay? And ladies and gentlemen, this doesn't get any easier. This does not get any easier. Okay? You got the Dallas Cowboys coming in. They just came off a tough loss last night. Okay, to the Green Bay Packers. Although Dallas, in my opinion, they have issues of their own. They can beat up on shitty teams, so I definitely expect them to come to MetLife Stadium and to completely whitewash the New York Jets next week, okay, where it's going to end up being a Dallas home game. And then the week after that, you have the New England Patriots back. Everybody's hoping and praying for Sam Darnold to come back under center, but you want to know something? Sam Darnold is not going to fix all of these problems. They're not. Okay? The only bright spot on this team, to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, is, again, the defense. Jamal Adams standing in for C.J. Mosley. You could say what you want about Greg Williams and his defense. You could say what you want about Trumaine Johnson and his just completely getting roasted, where his ass should be fucking benched and they should just put Nate Hairston in because he played much better than he did. Okay? All the criticism that bestowed upon this defense, that this defense just wasn't the same without C.J. Mosley. Okay, Leonard Williams. So, I think somebody needs to go to the NYPD or something and file a missing persons report on Leonard Williams, because you know what? I don't know where the fuck he is. I see a number 92 running around the field, but he really ain't doing shit. So, you know, I don't know what to tell you about that. But the problem with this New York Jets team is not its defense. It's its offense. I'm going to tell you something right now. If we continue to playing at the level that we're playing right now, this New York Jets defense is going to be burnt out by the second half of the season, and it's basically the dam's going to break. There really is. You know, it's just it's pathetic. It's becoming unwatchable. It's inexcusable for the New York Jets organization, for the New York Jets front office to allow this to continue. You know, and I'm sorry, but Adam Gase has a lot of shit to answer for. And there are some people that want to say, well, the loss wasn't on him. The loss was on the loss was on Falk. The loss was on the offensive line. Yeah, but you know what? Gay should have had a plan B out there. The changes that he made wasn't enough. So, and I know that some other people that I've spoken to about this team have said to me, CJ, you know what? Maybe wait till week 8, wait till week 9. If they're still winless by week 8, week 9, then, I could understand the whole fire Adam Gase and so on and so forth. But are you really going to let the fan base suffer through all of this? Really? Are we really going to wait till the midpoint of the season to make a coaching change? I mean, it's bad enough the Jets are probably need a hell's prayer in order to even make the postseason. So I'm not even going to consider the postseason. I don't want to hear the word playoffs out of any Jet fan's mouth this year. Because this team, with the remaining games on the schedule, we may be lucky if we go 4-12. Okay? And at this point, I'm not even confident that we can defeat the Miami Dolphins. I'm sorry. I don't. When you go and take a look at other games on the schedule, you've got Jacksonville, okay? Jacksonville with Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew's holding it down, okay? The Oakland Raiders are probably the surprise of the NFL this season because everybody expected them to just be a giant, hot, piping pile of shit right there next to the Dolphins. A lot of people were thinking that the Raiders and the Dolphins are going to be fighting it out for, who's going to get the first overall pick in the NFL draft. And the Raiders are beating people. So, there are no easy games. There are no longer the fact of easy games on this schedule. None. Zip, zilch, nada. Plain and simple. So you can forget all of that. You can forget the easy games. Oh, this should be a win. That should be a win. The other thing should be a win. No. Because right now, this team hasn't proven that it could beat a high school football team, let alone an NFL team, with the way that this offense is going. And again, I've said it throughout this entire podcast. Spare me the fucking excuses. Because right now, it's laughable, it's becoming unwatchable, and the wheels have not only come off the wagon, they've fallen off. Now, good news, the Jets are going to get some reinforcements. Brandon Copeland coming back from his suspension. Chris Herndon coming back from his suspension. But you know what? I mean, you didn't use any of the other guys. Now all of a sudden, Chris Herndon's going to come back, and now all of a sudden the offense is going to find its rhythm. No. Sam Darnold and Chris Herndon are not enough for this offense to find itself back into rhythm. Okay, this offensive line just completely needs to be sent to fucking Los Huevos. So I don't know. I may have to call up my boys from the Ain't Easy Being Green podcast and have them put me on a conference call with freaking Senor Waivers down there and find out if there's any bums that could come up here and can play offensive line. Because let me tell you something. I probably would feel more confident with Sam Darnold playing behind a couple of rolling trash cans and a couple of rain barrels and a traffic cone. It's ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous at this point. And it's not even funny. It's not even funny because the Jets are completely being outscored by a wide margin. The offense can't put any points on the board. And you're basically running your best offensive weapon, which is Le'Veon Bell, into the ground. So, I'm sorry. Like it or not, I put this at the feet of Adam Gase. But I also now put this at the feet of Joe Douglas. Because trade deadline's only a couple weeks away. I'm sure that you could trade, Leonard Williams for something. Okay? And I know that everybody's going to other people's practice squads and so on and so forth and doing all their poaching and trying to poach this player and poach that player and poach the other player. But I just don't see how this is going to be turned around. Okay, but my only advice to Jets Nation, to be honest with you, very simply put, is this. As the games come along, no matter what the score is, just try to enjoy it the best way you can. I know it sucks when your team loses. And look, I don't enjoy sitting up here doing a podcast twice a week talking about how the Jets are going to get their asses kicked every week. And then having to go through a post-game recap where I'm actually struggling to find some positives from the previous game in which we just got our asses handed to us. You know? But it also makes me laugh how people could go on social media and they could say, you know, things aren't that bad and things aren't this and things aren't that. And don't worry, once Sam comes back, we're going to go on a run and we're going to do. I wish I could believe all of that, but I can't. I just can't. You know, it doesn't make me any less of a fan. It just makes me realistic to how dire the situation is. And the New York Jets, they are paying for their arrogance, for their lack of addressing the offensive line over the past 5 years. I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it again. Okay, my buddy Spotty Blackman, okay, had said on my show a couple of years ago, this offensive line has been criminally neglected. And it's showing. You're seeing it right now, ladies and gentlemen. When we looked at this offensive line on paper, we thought maybe we were going to have maybe the 16th, 17th best offensive line. That would have been enough to get you some wins in this league. Do you realize that this offensive line is like 32nd in the league? Do you realize that the New York Jets right now at 0-4 are on pace to have a historically bad offensive output? We're not talking about just franchise history. We're talking NFL history. That's not the kind of history that you want to make, ladies and gentlemen. So, I'm sorry, but like it or not, Gase is the man in charge. Douglas is the man in charge, along with Gase. They both got to share some of the blame. And, the players, matter of fact, Rich Cimini had something on ESPNNewYork.com that the players today had a players-only meeting. And the reason why Adam Gase took all the blame and so on is to keep the locker room from fracturing, because once you start having the defense point fingers at the offense and the offense point fingers at the defense, you don't want a divided locker room. And I'm going to tell you something right now. If they get blown out against Dallas, I don't give a shit how many players-only meetings they have. I don't give a shit how many people are going to go to the press and say, oh, we're still united. We're still one team, one goal. We're still this. We're still that. It's all a crock of bullshit. So, and I'm going to tell you guys, I'm actually going to end tonight's podcast on this note. And you know what? I was actually texting my good buddies from the Ain't Easy Being Green podcast during the game yesterday. And I actually texted Michael Lagares. I'm like, it's amazing that Greg Williams hasn't walked up to Adam Gase and punched him in the fucking face yet. Either him, Darryl Loggins, or Jim Bob Cooter. I'm surprised there hasn't been a full-on steel cage match, fist fight, brawl, whatever the fuck you want to call it, on the Jets sideline between the coaching staff. Because I tell you something right now, I'm sorry. Offensive guru, my ass. So, because right now, and I know that there are people that are going to laugh right now, but you know what? I'm sure that Todd Bowles is probably sitting back with a cigar in his mouth, laughing his ass off right now. And I'm sure John Morton is sitting wherever he's sitting with another cigar in his mouth going, I told you bitches it wasn't me. Because you know what? Say what you want about Todd Bowles, okay, and how bad of a coach that he was for the 5 years that he should have been here and his horrible personnel management and so on and so forth. But you know what? His offenses weren't this historically bad. Not with Chan Gailey, not with John Morton, not even with Jeremy Mr. Banana Hammock Hayes. Bates, I'm sorry. Not Hayes. So, It's pathetic. It's pathetic, and I just don't know what else to say. I really don't. You know, I'm still going to rep my green and white. I'm still going to sit here and represent the green and white. I'm still going to root my Jets. I'm a diehard Jet fan until the day I die, but I got to give it to you straight, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Jets this season are going to die fast and quiet unless some drastic changes are made. You know, and unfortunately, those drastic changes may have to start with the head coach. So, all right. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to end tonight's episode of the Jets Factor podcast here. I'd like to thank everyone who took the time out to listen to me live. To download the episode on either Spreaker.com or SoundCloud.com. Shout out to my buddy Arrow Marks on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Listen to his show coming in, and I know that a lot of people right now, they got Yankee fever, New York Yankee fever, baby. You know, I tell you, between the Yankees getting off to a great start in the playoffs, the New York Rangers, the New York Devils, the New York Islanders getting off to some pretty good starts with the NHL season. I tell you, if it wasn't for that, man, I don't know. I don't know. New York sports would be in a very, very dark fucking place right now. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, you can follow the show on Twitter at CNC Jets Factor. You can follow me at JetsFan0523. You can follow my partner in crime, Carl Stateman Sardinas, at CS Sardinas. Shoot the show an email, thejetsfactor@gmail.com. Don't forget to go to our Facebook page, the Jets Factor Podcast, on www.facebook.com. Our content's up there. Hit that listen and like button. Also, don't forget to go to iTunes, like, subscribe, and rate. So that way, you know, we know how we're doing here on the Jets Factor Podcast. You could also shoot us messages on the Jets Factor Podcast Facebook page. Be sure to go to Sports War Radio, courtesy of Spreaker.com. That's where the Jets Factor Podcast home base is. And, of course, don't forget SoundCloud.com, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast fix, you can find the Jets Factor Podcast. So, man, it's been tough, I tell you, ladies and gentlemen. It's just been really, really tough. You know, it's really hard to do a podcast when you really have nothing positive to say about the team that you hold to your heart and you love so much. You know, and it's frustrating. You know, here we are sitting at 0-4, and, you know, our team's pretty much, you could kiss the rest of the season goodbye. So, anyhow, my name is CJ the Painkiller DeSimone, signing off for tonight. We will see you guys when we see you guys. Peace, love, go Jets. And make sure that you have your favorite alcoholic beverage handy, because Lord knows I'm about to go get me one myself. So, let's get on up out of here.
1, 2, 3, and
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
The Jets Factor podcast on the Sports War Radio Network is brought to you by StatementGames.com. Want to take your fantasy game to the next level? Then make your statement. The Jets Factor has weekly tournaments during the NFL regular season that you, the fan, can join in on to win some really cool swag. Go to StatementGames.com and create an account today. It costs you nada, zippo, nothing. And you're ready to join on any one of dozens of tournaments going on in all major sports. So are you ready to make your statement? If so, go to StatementGames.com. Again, that's StatementGames.com.